on. Good morning, everyone. So, making the most of every connection. So, by the way, this has been a favorite topic of mine since I encountered structured networking back in 2009. It's just been interesting to me. How do you create these authentic relationships with people? How do I get to know, like, and trust them? But this also, by the way, rolled into my contractors that I worked with, my employees that I worked with, as well as the referral partners. And so, how do you be intentional about all of this stuff? The people who are actually strangers, but form these amazing relationships. It's really a science, isn't it? Anyway, we're going to discuss it today on 10 at 10, making the most of every interaction. Let's get it. Good morning, everyone. So Paula Mattisonsierra here, Power Marketing SF. And this morning I have with me Bethany Ann George. I love saying her tagline, the follow-up boss. Isn't this time number 2 or time number 3 that you're on the show? Time number 2, right? We're on deuces right now, right? And I love what you do, because I think especially now that we're in this whole world that we're in, how do you form these authentic relationships with people who are sometimes like 5,000 miles from you? They're in other countries. And you're still doing it. We're still doing business with them. And so I know one of her focuses is the soulpreneur, really getting them to be their best selves as they go out there and show up and show out. And so let me just move you into our so you're side by side, so I'm not like highlighting you the whole time. But I love the way your conversation, Bethany, is. It's not just about using a CRM. It's about using it in a way and making sure that you're wording things and being thoughtful about the process as you're going. And I know right now you have a new program where we're really looking at diving into that a little bit more. So guys, today that's what we're going to discuss. How do we make this thing into more of a science? Because that's where we are right now. This thing has really become a bit of a science. So Bethany, welcome to the show, my dear.
Hello, Paula.
And so what have you been up to? Before we go into it, I know you have a new program that you're launching right now. I know you can primarily focus on LinkedIn and the relationship building around that. But you're kind of branching out into a little bit more right now. What is that exactly?
It's a little bit of expanding into a different client base. So primarily up to this point, I've worked with the single solopreneurs. So those business owners who are running the show all by themselves. They wear all the hats. And honestly, the biggest reason they come to me is because their pain point was getting organized, keeping track of all of the people they were meeting, whether they're prospects, whether they're referral partners, whether they're just business support members. They just needed to keep track of those connections and those relationships. And so that was the initial pain point. We talk about tools, we talk about CRMs, but my favorite thing was to talk about how do you actually build and nurture relationships. And now I'm expanding into working more with businesses who have grown up a little bit. They've gotten a little bigger. They've got a team working with them. And a lot of times they think they kind of feel like they're getting in the groove. They're getting things automated. They got people doing stuff for them. And what I'm recognizing is that sometimes they get a little too big for their britches. And what that means is that they're losing track of the customer experience along the way. And it's specifically before that person becomes a customer. The customer journey is kind of just lost in this like automated emails, automated social posts. They're not really connecting with that passionate entrepreneur that they used to be able to before that business got bigger.
I know they put so much stake in the digital portion of it. They don't realize that human intervention is an important part of it, which means you can hire me for days as your marketer, but you're the essential. Your business, running a business and marketing has not changed for 100 years. You still need to be part of that process. I think I think they expect magic sometimes from the digital stuff, manna from heaven.
It's that kind of like, they just want to set it on autopilot. What is the phrase that was used for a long time? I want to make money while I sleep.
Oh God, I hated that phrase even when it was there.
I know, right? It's, if you're selling a widget, if you're selling a book, if you're selling
T-shirts,
okay, right. You know, sodas. Sure, people will buy it while they sleep, or while you sleep anyways. But if you are the business, if you are the passion behind it and whatever that is, then you need to be the one interacting with those people. So.
Absolutely. So I know right before the show, guys, we kind of dived into relationship and how it's expanded. And so our phrase was, stop acting like you're running Amazon. Stop mimicking that behavior. You need to expand on that for everyone and explain, because I think that was just so thoughtful.
Oh, yeah. So, just a little background. I actually will do deliveries as a contractor for Amazon periodically. It helps bring a little extra money, helps me get out of the house. Yeah. So I have direct experience with their operations, you know, on that local level. What I have learned is that ultimately Amazon's top priorities are capacity and efficiency. And a lot of business owners think that is the goal, to have the ability to be super efficient and to have max capacity. And I can tell you, every business that makes that their primary focus completely loses touch with the people, and the people feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have some thoughts in your head there about that, Paula.
No, because I was thinking that even Twitter has jumped into that bucket as well. But it's been, I mean, I've been in the job market, I mean, for a while, since I was 17. I had my first job when I was 16. I was super stoked about it. It was interesting. If you're that person who's thoughtful and really observes leadership and the management, you've seen that there are some things that have changed drastically. I mean, I've gotten laid off before, you know, or my department closed altogether, and like everyone just in my department was closed out. And the difference from how I was treated that one layoff, you know, I only had one layoff experience, but the respect and the nobility, the way they treated us was so different than the people I bumped into like 10 years down the road, same company, who had gotten laid off. And it was sad to see. So we've gotten into this automated, mechanical, you know, don't speak to a person, just fill out a form. Yes. Yeah, really makes, and like I said, I'm watching Twitter wholeheartedly jump into that. I think Elon this morning said, if you're not willing to work super, super hard, like, you know, don't have any place here. It's, you know, we're not in Egypt anymore, like 2,000 years ago, where you have slave labor. Yes, sometimes your team's not going to feel well, and sometimes they're going to be amazing, you know? So, but yeah, it's been interesting to watch a lot of companies go into that. So to broaden it, okay, so I have my CRM. I'm doing all of these really good processes on the mechanics end. What should I be thinking about now that I've graduated? I'm out of I'm wearing big boy shoes now, big girl shoes now. What's my next step here to keep that personalized thing going?
Yes. So one of the things that a lot of business owners are told is you must build your email list, you must have email marketing. And those are good things when done with intention. And that intention, obviously, a lot of email marketing is about education. You know, let me educate you on what I do. Let me educate you on my expertise. That's really good. It has its limitations if that's your only interaction, but that's a good place to start. The other thing you need to be aware of is, how are you connecting with your followers, with your email list people? And that means asking them questions, engaging with them on a way like, do you know their demographic? If you have a really specific demographic, then you can really speak directly to them. Let's say you talk to entrepreneurs. talk to their challenges, talk to the things they have trouble with, and be vulnerable about your own, because it's relatable. And that is such an important piece that is oftentimes forgotten about. And when I mentioned asking questions, invite them to a conversation. Invite them. I've had emails where I've gone on someone's email list and they ask me a question. So, what is the biggest struggle you have around this topic? Or what is something that you're looking to create from this information that you're receiving? And it felt like they were asking me. It wasn't just, I knew it was an automated email, but I'm like, what happens if I respond? And so I did. I was like, I want to see if there's actually a person on the other side. And they did reply. And the amount of relationship building that was created in that moment cannot be undervalued.
I love that.
Building things like that into your your marketing and sales, and those two are really close. Marketing and sales are like this.
Yeah, I know. They've been trying to separate them for the last 15, 20 years. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, people who don't know anything about marketing and talking about marketing right now. It's like sales is an element under marketing. It's like, it's like, what kind of snacks are there? There's snacks and potato chips. No, potato chips is a snack. It goes under, and so they work hand in hand. Miss Follow-Up Boss, how do you follow up though? So it's we're interacting, we're making sure that there are people behind those emails, because I'm hoping that a regular person, even if it's automated, is connected to this instead of it going into an invisible box.
Right.
Is there steps that I should be taking like afterwards? I've answered your question. Clearly, there's an opportunity of some sort there.
Mm-hmm.
It feels basic, but what should I do next?
And really what you becomes customized to the business. But the key is you consider that every connection, every follower, every name on your email list, every prospect, whatever they may be, even potential referral partners, they all start out as a seed, just like seeds in our garden. They start out as a seed. So when you first have that introduction with them, wherever it comes from, you're planting them, and now you need to nurture them. You need to tend to them and make sure that they continue growing and know what your purpose for them is. So that's where follow-up really comes in. If you have had an engagement with that person, they're no longer just kind of a stalker, follower, somebody on the outside of your community. They've now come into an inner circle with you, and they've kind of loaned you a little bit of trust, and now you need to tend to that and make sure that you can prove to them that you are valuable to them. So understanding what that requires has a lot to do with, like, is this a prospect? Is this a referral partner? Like, who is this in that space? And then speak to them in that and respect their boundaries. So it's a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop treating people like transactions. That's why we're not Amazon.
I had a one-to-one with a gentleman the other day, and we spoke about another person that we know from our referral group, and like, hey, you should reach out and speak to him. He's like, already done it, not going to do it again. He's way too transactional for me. He was like, the like portion of this is a big part of it as well, because I'm now handing you over to my clients. And if you're not likable, then I don't care how good you are at what you do. If you're divisive, then it does not make me look good. If you're fake, because some people are just naturally divisive, but some people are also fake as well. I mean, they're amazing at what they do, but because they don't understand how to interact appropriately, everything just comes off with a very transactional. I want something, or I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not just coming in as a problem solver,
Mm-hmm.
So one of the next question that's like ringing in my head here, all I hear is research and be deliberate. Then expand on that for me.
Yeah, I use the phrases intentional and purposeful. And so that has a lot to do with, again, the people that you're speaking to. Create a strategy. There's a way that you can have a process of interacting with people that is relatively rinse and repeat. And I say relatively in that you can have like a concept of what comes next. Yeah. And within that, recognizing the human being on the other side of the screen, the phone, the table, whatever it may be, how do you speak to them? And a great example of this is understanding different personalities. Yeah. Most sales techniques are assuming that everybody, if you know anything about the DISC personality type, and it's a quadrant, there's 4 types. The one that the typical sales process is speaking to is the D of the DISC, which is direct. They're very assertive. They're very, to the point. I don't need frills. Just tell me why we're here. And that's how sales treats everybody. And that is only 3% of the population. 3%. 97% is the other 3. And the other 3 personality types need at least some warming up to you. It's not no like and trust you mentioned. It's really like, no trust. Yeah. Do I like you? Okay, now let's get to know you and your business. What do you do? How do you work with people? What does that look like? I just want knowledge. Don't tell me. I just want knowledge. And then I need to know that I can trust you. So along the way, you're proving, do our values align? Do our personalities have enough in common? Or are you going to put yourself on me? Or are you going to, break my trust by not following up? Things like that. Yeah. And and that customization, if you recognize like they are a direct personality type, then be direct. If they're very data driven and very analytical, then you need to take your time. You need to give them lots of information. You need to get all nerdy, and you need to get down the weeds with them, and they will love you for it. And then the other 2 personality types are somewhere in between.
What is your definition then of active listening? It's something that I've been working on myself to really listen. I mean, with no judgment, listen to their body language, listen to what they're saying, and not to translate it based on my experiences. But how do you see this?
Curiosity. Comment every conversation with curiosity. And when you comment, especially like I like to say in the networking space, we talk about doing one-to-ones, come into it with just a ton of curiosity. Tell me about you. What do you do? Why do you do it? How did you get involved? What do you love about it? And just allow them to share all the things about them and just be utterly curious. And when you're in that space, you will listen. You will inquire. And you'll be in that space where they're like, oh, I feel safe with you because you were acknowledging me as a human being. And then you take all of that real juice you just got from them and know what they will need from you in the future, both business-wise and just human-wise. You'll learn about their family. You'll learn about their passions. You'll learn, do they love data and details, or do they want to be direct, or do they, what is that personality type? You can learn so much when you come at it with curiosity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely love that, by the way. And following up, I know we talked about following up electronically, but what about now that we're moving back to some in person, and also Zoom to me is an in-person. I know people don't really consider it that, but they need to just kind of get on the bus because it's leaving without them, or whether they like it or not. How do you follow up through the in-person opportunities that come up? I mean, because you and I both do so much networking. So when we meet folks in person, how do we follow up on those opportunities?
So, pretty good example here from an event I was at myself the other day, and they're still on my desk, but I could technically throw them away because I have already done something with them. please don't go to a networking event or any other event if you don't plan on doing something with the people that you meet. And what I tell people is, if you go to an event, pick 2 or 3 people. This is virtual or in person, doesn't matter. Pick 2 or 3 people that you're like, that person would be great to meet. That person, has purple hair. That person, that person would make a great referral person. Whatever the context is, pick 2 or 3 people. And then if you get their business cards, awesome. Get an app on your phone and send them. And then put them somewhere that you will do something. Please. I'm a huge advocate for CRMs. CRMs are amazing. And like any tool, you need to know how to use it. So I scan a card, it goes into my CRM, it immediately flags me as a new contact. That flag then reminds me, go find them on social media. So I usually go look them up on LinkedIn. I will connect with them on LinkedIn. And just the same way for me. If you look me up on LinkedIn, I know my follow is the primary button, but you're allowed to click down and click connect. Please do. Tell me how we connected. Send me why. But, and I'll do that. I actually really love putting a message in there that says, hey, it was great to meet you today at such and such event. And you know what?
Yeah, right?
3 months down the road, whatever, if we don't get connected right away, if I look at our messages like, oh, that's how we met each other. It's so powerful for both of us that way. So then I'll do that. And then I will reach out on email or LinkedIn or whatever form of connection I want to. And I'll say, hey, let's schedule a one-to-one. So those are the initial steps. Most people can get there most of the time. And I just want to know, literally, that one-to-one, just tell me about you. I need to know, do I like you? And is there something we could do? Is there something that we could do together? So that's what my goal is in that initial one-to-one. And then I always send one-to-one follow-up email. It's mostly templated, and it asks, how can I introduce you to other people? Oh, by the way, here's how you can introduce me to.
Because a lot of people won't ask back, right? Because they feel like they shouldn't. It's not polite. It's like, do you not know the game that we're playing here? Do you not get why we're here? We were strangers previously trying to build a relationship, and this is what we're trying to build too. Not only will I refer you, but my expectation is that you're trying to figure out how to refer me as well. And I should ask, because I feel like sometimes you go to these events, you meet that personality who's like, well, I'll just wait. I mean, when I used to own, I did retail at one point, and it was interesting meeting business owners on that level who were like that. I'm opening a store and I'll just wait for people to find me. I'm like, but you have to pay rent next month and the month after that and the month after that. You want to wait for them to find you, or do you want to go out and find them? I say, something, if you're that shy person, if you're that quiet person, a little bit more introverted, then I feel like it should be part of your business plan to figure out how you can muscle that up by either having someone else do it for you, or, start learning within your own sphere, right, of personality type, how you're going to do that exactly, I think that's very important. And so we're getting our networking together. My final question to you is goals. How do we, that's a lot, because we're the people who are actually getting out and doing the networking. Some thoughts around what should we be doing as far as 2023 is coming up, because it feels kind of overwhelming. How do we attack it?
Yes. Well, and specifically in the networking space, there's a real way that people attend networking because they've been told you can build your business through networking. And so a lot of people show up to networking with no purpose. Like I said, no goals.
Yeah.
You need to know what is your ability, what is your capacity, both mentally, emotionally, and time-wise, to meet people, not just at the event. Don't go to a networking event if you don't have time to make one-to-one connections, because you're not going to get any depth otherwise. You're just going out in your garden and throwing seeds out and hoping come fall there'll be something growing.
I'm going to steal that analogy. I'm just throwing it out there. Continue.
It's a good one, isn't it? So, you know, you've gone to a networking event, you've collected your seeds, go plant them in the ground and plan to tend to them. So that means make time for those connections.
Yeah.
Make it as easy as possible for both of you, you know, have a scheduler and things like that. But you talk about goals. So know how many people you want to meet. Know how many referral partners you're looking for.
Oh, okay.
And plan to nurture that. You can't, people aren't going to send referrals if they don't know you and your business with a certain level of depth. And you also know them and seek ways to support them. I want to give a really good example of this. I'm in a local networking group.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman in our group. He works primarily with brick and mortar businesses. He helps them assess their expenses and figure out if he can save money. I don't work with a lot of brick and mortars, but I do a lot of networking. And so we work with different people. So he's not the most ideal referral partner, but we have built a relationship because I see him most weeks. And I said, I know lots of people who need you. Let me introduce you to. Let me introduce you to. So I'm out there networking. I'm meeting other people who I might not be able to help my business. They may not be able to help me in their business, but I know somebody. You know, and that's where referrals, not so much, or introductions, not so much referrals. Introductions have such value if you know how to do them.
Can I tell you, by the way, and this is kind of an off note. I mean, because like I said, I've been doing networking since 2009 when I found structured networking. I was super excited because I'd never seen networking in this structure before. But prior to that, it had been, you go to an event, a mixer, you know, it's the guy, that guy, I mentioned this guy a lot, you know, he had tons of cards. He would give you his, you'd take yours, it would be, right? It's like, you know, and would speak to you barely for like a minute and then interrupt you in the middle of he asked you who you are, you'd explain it, and he'd interrupt you and walk away to someone else, right? Because he has a goal. I'm giving away 200 cards. And so it was a new thing for me to find structured networking and you know, how should I utilize it exactly? For me, I find that with structured networking, one, the goals need to be on point. And I'm loving, I love what you said earlier today about when we talked about being deliberate, you know, and I'm just kind of summarizing everything right now. You know, one, I'm refreshing here for the viewers who are watching. So you're, if you caught in the middle or whatever, I just want to recap because I thought it was all great things. As you're networking, don't act like an Amazon. Remember that the heart needs to be part of it. You know, personalize your connections just a little bit. Follow up on the in-person items. Actually have a strategy even when you're on Zoom, right? Keep your goals small. They don't have to be massive. You know, have a very simple thing that you're going to do and do that consistently, and research and be deliberate about what it is that you're doing exactly. You know, so I really appreciate that thought line, by the way. And before I go, because you mentioned the word CRM a few times, which are the ones that you would say I'd put my name on it and recommend, like this handful of CRMs? Which are the ones that you would recommend to folks?
Well, there's one primary one that I suggest, and I've looked at lots of them. I haven't looked at all of them. But for the solopreneur and the small business owner, the one that I find is both easy to use, affordable, and super customizable in the ways that matter. So, and I have a video on my YouTube if you want to check out why I suggest this one. It's called Pipedrive. And yeah, and I find it super, super awesome because it lets me really put a ton of information in the profile of the contacts that I have. So when I pull up, say, Paula's, I can see every email between her. I can see all of my notes about our conversations. I can see all of the profile links that I've saved in there. So, I mean, like, everything I could possibly need to know about Paula that isn't in my head, and I try to get as much out of my head as possible, is there. Which is super awesome. And there's a lot of things. There are some automation abilities in it that can simplify a lot of processes. There's reminders so you don't lose track of people in 6 months.
I like that. I kind of utilize Calendly for that as well. If I meet with someone, I have it preset for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks down the road, that an automatic email goes to very specific people. You know, it's just like, hey, by the way, I'd love to do this again with you, because sometimes we forget. So just simply to automate it, and you know that you're both engaged and excited about this. Like, okay, well we should just schedule it now because we're going to get busy, and just meet for 30 minutes in 8 weeks just to check in, you know? All right, my dear, we're at the 30-minute mark. I could talk about this topic for, like I said, I'm fascinated by this topic of, you know, because it's become a science almost to me of how we interact. And it's always interesting when I see people completely missing the mark on it. Really at the essence of it is just human relationships, isn't it?
Right.
You know? Yeah, you know. So thank you so much. Before we go, like I said, I know if you want to go into it a little bit more, can you share with me, is it a new class that you're doing? Is it a seminar, or is it just simply a new a service offering that you've added?
It's a new service offering right now. And it's really about digging in with the business owner to assess and look at their business and figure out, where are you losing people in your follow-up? That's the key to it. Where, you know, and all of the automation, all the processes you put so much time and energy in, you're spending money on marketing to bring people into your funnels and into your community, but where are people getting lost? And that's where my expertise comes in.
That would be a great thing for people to do as they're creating their plans. Where did the bump happen? You know? Bethany, thank you so much. Always super valuable information. Guys, if you want to stay in touch with her, reach out on LinkedIn, drop her a note, connect with her. And of course, if you're looking for strategic marketing and day-to-day management of those activities, reach out to Power Marketing, to myself. Our continued mission is always to introduce you to amazing people like Bethany, you know, and, you know, my other referral partners, and also offer you some marketing to help inspire you and keep pushing you forward. We hear every Thursday on LinkedIn Live. So, you know, fight obscurity, guys, and stay visible. That's a quote by me. I realize that I say it way too often. Thank you so much, viewers. And again, thank you, Bethany, for being on today. You continue to amaze me. All of you, keep moving forward, everyone. Take care and have a great rest of the day. Bye, everyone. Thanks again, Bethany.
Thank you.